What if I told you that one of South Africa's most beloved sports heroes was murdered over a decade ago? And to this day, the courtroom drama is still unfolding, with shocking twists that nobody saw coming. A national icon, a quiet Sunday evening, 7 witnesses in one small house, and yet, after more than 10 years, the truth still feels just out of reach. This is the story of Senzo Meyiwa, the captain who saved his country on the field, but couldn't save himself when it mattered most. Before we dive in, I need to give you a quick disclaimer. This case involves discussions of violence and loss. All details are based on verified reports, official court records, and ongoing legal proceedings. Out of respect for everyone involved, we'll handle this story with care.
Now, let me take you back to where it all began. Senzo Robert Meyiwa wasn't just another footballer. He was South Africa's pride. Born on September 24, 1987, in Umlazi, a township near Durban, Senzo grew up with a ball at his feet and fire in his heart. In a country where football is more than just a game, it's a lifeline, a dream, a way out, Senzo was living proof that hard work and talent could change everything. By 2014, at just 27 years old, he was the captain of Orlando Pirates, one of South Africa's most prestigious football clubs. But that wasn't enough. He'd also earned the captain's armband for Bafana Bafana, the national team. Think about that for a second. At 27, he was leading his country. He was the man parents pointed to when they told their kids, "Work hard, stay focused, and you can achieve anything." Senzo was known for his incredible reflexes, his leadership on the field, and his humility off it. Teammates described him as a gentle giant. He stood tall, commanded respect, but never let fame go to his head. He was a devoted father, a son who took care of his family, and a man who understood where he came from. But like many stories that end in tragedy, this one is complicated, because Senzo's personal life wasn't as picture-perfect as his career. He was married to Mandisa Mkhize. They had a daughter together. To the public, they seemed like the ideal family. But behind closed doors, Senzo was involved in a relationship with someone else, Kelly Khumalo, a famous South African singer with a voice that could move stadiums and a personality that commanded attention. Kelly was a star in her own right. Bold, talented, unapologetic. She and Senzo had been seeing each other for some time, and in October 2014, they had a daughter together. Their relationship was the kind that tabloids loved, passionate, public, and complicated. Now, I'm not here to judge anyone's personal choices, but I'm telling you this because it matters. Relationships like this, relationships tangled in secrecy, emotion, and public scrutiny, they create pressure, and sometimes that pressure explodes. So, let's go to October 26, 2014, a Sunday evening in Vosloorus, a township in Ekurhuleni, east of Johannesburg. It's a working-class area, the kind of place where neighbors know each other, where kids play soccer in the streets, and where families gather on weekends. Senzo was at Kelly's mother's house. It was a small, cozy home where Kelly lived with her family. Also in the house that evening were Kelly's sister Zandi Khumalo, Zandi's boyfriend Longwe Twala, son of a famous South African music producer, Kelly's mother Ntombi, and 2 of Kelly's friends. By all accounts, it was supposed to be a relaxed evening. They were watching TV, talking, just hanging out. Senzo had come to spend time with Kelly and their newborn daughter. Nothing about the evening seemed unusual. But here's where the story takes a dark turn. According to initial reports, around 8 p.m., 3 men burst into the house. One of them was described as having dreadlocks and carrying a firearm. The claim was simple. This was a robbery, an armed home invasion. The intruders wanted valuables. Things escalated, and in the chaos, Senzo was shot. But even from the very beginning, nothing about this story added up. Why would armed robbers target this specific house in a township where most families didn't have much? Why didn't they take anything of significant value? And most haunting of all, why did they shoot the one man in the room who could have been their biggest payday if they'd kidnapped him for ransom instead? Questions. So many questions. And for the people inside that house, the nightmare was only just beginning. Because what happened that night wouldn't just take Senzo's life. It would spark one of the most controversial, drawn-out, and emotionally charged murder investigations in South African history. And here's the thing. Over the next decade, the story would change. New evidence would emerge, confessions would be questioned, and the case would reveal something far more sinister than a random robbery gone wrong. So, what really happened in that house? Stick with me. Because the truth, or at least what we know of it, is about to get a whole lot darker. All right, let's rewind and walk through the events of that night step by step. Because the official timeline, the one that was presented to the public for years, has more holes in it than a soccer net. October 26, 2014. Approximately 8 p.m. Kelly Kumulo's family home in Vosloorus. Inside the house there were 7 people. All 7 would become witnesses to a tragedy, and later central figures in a mystery that refuses to die. The initial story went like this. 3 armed men allegedly forced their way into the house. One had a firearm. They demanded money, phones, anything valuable. An altercation broke out, and during the struggle a single shot was fired. That bullet struck Senzo in the chest. Now, here's where you need to pay attention. A chest wound, especially one from a firearm at close range, is catastrophic. We're talking about potential damage to the heart, lungs, major blood vessels. Every second counts, and in this case there weren't enough seconds. Senzo was rushed to a nearby hospital, but he didn't make it. He was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The man who had saved countless goals, who had stood as the last line of defense for his team and his country, couldn't be saved. And just like that, South Africa lost a hero. But let's pause here, because even in those first few hours, people were asking questions. The house wasn't ransacked. Nothing major was stolen. No one else was seriously hurt. And here's the kicker. There were 7 people in that house. 7 potential witnesses. And yet, their stories didn't quite line up. In the days following the murder, the South African Police Service, SAPS for short, launched an investigation, and the nation watched. Senzo wasn't just a footballer. He was a symbol. His death felt personal to millions of South Africans who'd watched him play, who'd cheered for him, who'd believed in him. But as weeks turned into months, the investigation stalled. No arrests, no clear suspects, just a growing sense of frustration and anger. People started to wonder, was this really a random robbery? Or was there something else going on? And then, 6 years later, everything changed. In October 2020, 6 years after Senzo's death, the police made a shocking announcement. They'd arrested 5 men in connection with the murder. Their names were Muzika Wukulelwa Sibia, Bongani Ntanzi, Mthokoziseni Mafisa, Mthobisi Mankube, and Fisokuhle Ntuli. These weren't random criminals. According to the police, some of them had criminal records. Some were linked to other serious crimes. And here's where the story takes its darkest turn. The state, that's the prosecution, began to build a case that this wasn't a robbery at all. They alleged that Senzo's murder was a hit, a contract killing. Someone had allegedly paid to have him killed. Let that sink in for a second. A contract killing. That means this wasn't about money or phones or valuables. This was personal. This was planned. And if the state's theory is correct, someone wanted Senzo Meyiwa dead. But who and why? That's the question that has haunted this case. And it's the question that led investigators to look closer at the people who were in that house the night Senzo died. During the investigation, police focused heavily on a man named Brigadier Bongani Janinda. He's a high-ranking officer who took over the case years after the initial investigation went cold. And Janinda had a theory, one that contradicted the original robbery narrative entirely. According to testimony that would later emerge in court, Janinda challenged the idea that this was a random attack. He pointed to inconsistencies in witness statements. He questioned why certain people in the house that night changed their stories over the years. And he zeroed in on one key piece of alleged evidence: a confession. Bongani Ntanzi, one of the 5 accused, allegedly confessed to being involved in the murder. But here's the problem. Ntanzi later claimed that confession was coerced. He said he was tortured, threatened, that the confession wasn't real, and he wasn't the only one making those claims. Vosloorus Ntuli, another one of the accused, also alleged abuse while in custody. In fact, the judge presiding over the case, Judge Ratha Mokwatlheng, even ordered that Ntuli be transferred to a different prison after allegations of torture surfaced. So now we have 5 men on trial, maintaining their innocence. We have confessions that are disputed, and we have a case that's been dragging through the courts for years with no end in sight. But wait, it gets even more complicated. During the trial, which officially began in 2022, new details emerged. Court transcripts revealed something shocking. According to one version of events presented in court, 3 shots were allegedly fired that night. One hit the ground and allegedly wounded Zandi Kumalo slightly. One struck Senzo, and a third allegedly hit Longwe Twala, Zandi's boyfriend, in the ankle. But here's the thing. That version of events conflicts with the original story, and it raises even more questions. If Longwe was shot, why wasn't that widely reported at the time? Why did it take years for this detail to surface? And then there's the biggest question of all. If this was a hit, who ordered it? Who wanted Senzo dead? Some people have pointed fingers at those inside the house. Whispers and rumors have swirled around Kelly Kumalo, though she has never been charged and has consistently denied any involvement. Others have speculated about jealousy, about money, about secrets that went to the grave with Senzo. But here's the truth. As of today, no one has been convicted. The trial is still ongoing, and the 5 accused men are still fighting to prove their innocence. What we do know is this. On October 26, 2014, a beloved national hero walked into a house in Vosloorus, and he never walked out. And for more than a decade, his family, his fans, and an entire nation have been waiting for answers. But what happened next would change everything. The morning after Senzo Meyiwa's death, South Africa woke up to a nightmare. News outlets across the country led with the same devastating headline: Bafana Bafana Captain Senzo Meyiwa shot dead. Social media exploded. Tributes poured in from teammates, rival players, politicians, and fans. The entire nation seemed to stop and grieve. His funeral, held in Durban, was a massive event. Thousands of people lined the streets. Fellow footballers served as pallbearers. Government officials attended. And in the middle of it all, Senzo's family stood broken, trying to comprehend how their son, their brother, their hero was gone. But alongside the grief, there was anger. Because even in those early days, people sensed that something wasn't right. The South African Police Service held press conferences. They promised a thorough investigation, They assured the public that justice would be served. But as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, there were no arrests. No clear suspects. The case went cold, and for 6 long years, Senzo's family lived in limbo. Imagine that. 6 years of waking up every day knowing that the person or people responsible for your loved one's death were still out there, walking free, living their lives. It's the kind of pain that doesn't fade, it festers. Then, in October 2020, came the breakthrough. Police arrested 5 men and charged them with Senzo's murder. Finally, after 6 years, it seemed like justice might be on the horizon. But the road to justice, as it turns out, would be long and brutal. The trial officially started in 2022 in the High Court in Pretoria. The 5 accused men pleaded not guilty. They each faced charges of murder, attempted murder, robbery with aggravating circumstances, possession of an unlicensed firearm, and possession of ammunition. And from the very beginning, this trial has been a roller coaster. The state's case, led by prosecutors, rests heavily on the theory that this was a contract killing, not a random robbery. They've presented confessions, cell phone records, and witness testimony in an attempt to prove that these 5 men were hired to kill Senzo Meyiwa. But the defense has fought back hard. They've challenged the confessions, claiming they were obtained through torture and coercion. They've poked holes in the state's timeline, and they've filed multiple applications to have the charges dismissed due to lack of evidence. In fact, just this year, 2025, one of the accused, Nthokoziseni Mafisa, applied for a discharge under Section 174 of the Criminal Procedure Act. That's a legal move where the defense argues that the state hasn't proven its case and asks the judge to dismiss the charges. The judge denied that application, meaning the trial continues, but it shows just how contested this case remains. And then there are the delays. So many delays. In 2024, one of the defense lawyers, Advocate Thulani Mngomezulu, passed away. His death brought the trial to a halt while accused number 1, Muzi Sibiya, found new representation. The case resumed in May 2025, but not without more drama. Another defense advocate, Advocate Manisi, even requested time off to run the Comrades Marathon, a famous ultramarathon in South Africa. Judge Mokotelheng was not pleased. He made it clear that delays were unacceptable and that the family had waited long enough. As of now, in October 2025, the trial is still ongoing. In July 2025, after 3 years of presenting evidence, the state officially closed its case. Now, the defense has begun presenting theirs. But legal experts warn that this trial could drag on for months, maybe even years, before a verdict is reached. So, where does that leave us? For Senzo's family, it's been more than a decade of pain. His father passed away without ever seeing justice for his son. His mother, his siblings, his children, they've all had to live with the weight of unanswered questions and a legal system that moves at a glacial pace. And the public? South Africans are exhausted. This case has become a symbol of everything wrong with the country's justice system. The delays, the alleged corruption, the feeling that powerful people can escape accountability. Online, the debate rages on. Some people believe the 5 accused men are guilty. Others think they're scapegoats. And there are those who believe the real killer or killers were in that house all along and have never been held accountable. Kelly Kumalo, Senzo's girlfriend at the time, has been at the center of intense public scrutiny. She's never been charged with anything, and she's repeatedly denied any involvement. But the court of public opinion has not been kind to her. Some people have called for her arrest. Others have defended her, pointing out that she's also a victim in this tragedy, a woman who lost the father of her child and has been dragged through the mud for over a decade. And that's the thing about cases like this. They don't just affect the people directly involved, They ripple outward. They affect families, communities, entire nations. They shake our faith in justice. They make us question whether the truth will ever come to light. So, will justice ever be served in the Senzo Meyiwa case? Honestly, I don't know. As of today, the trial continues. The 5 accused men maintain their innocence. The state insists it has the right people. And Senzo's family keeps showing up to court, day after day, hoping for closure. But here's what I do know. Senzo Meyiwa deserved better. He deserved to watch his daughters grow up. He deserved to continue inspiring millions of young South Africans who saw him as proof that dreams can come true. He deserved to live. And his family deserves answers. This case isn't over. Not by a long shot. But one thing is certain. The world is watching. And as long as people keep asking questions, keep demanding accountability, there's still hope that the truth will eventually come to light. Because justice delayed is not justice denied. Not yet. Not as long as we keep fighting for it. So, I want to ask you, what do you think? Do you believe the 5 accused men are guilty? Do you think there's more to this story than we know? And most importantly, do you think Senzo Meyiwa's family will ever get the justice they deserve? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going. Because stories like this, they matter. They remind us that behind every headline there's a real person, a real family, real pain. And if you want to stay updated on cases like this, cases where justice is still being fought for, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell so you don't miss any updates, because we're not stopping until the truth comes out. Thanks for watching, and remember, justice may be slow, but it's worth the wait. Rest in peace, Senzo Meyiwa. Your legacy lives on.